Today's talk arises for me out of things I thought about as a result of the other talk, because for me the discussion the other day was basically about watching the soup churn and picking out various pieces of carrot, meat, and potato and naming them and letting them drop back in the soup. What does this all come to? For years, for as long as I've been around Esalen, the cognoscenti have been awaiting what is called the PS, the paradigm shift. And it has been announced many times, cited in the parking lot, seen in the baths, and yet it's an incredibly elusive creature and never willing to really come out of the underbrush and be identified. And then there is the question, and what's so great about it? Well, we won't know that till we have it in our sights. But I think, let's see, did I bring it with me? Did I have that much presence of mind? Yes, I did. Here is the issue of Brain Mind Bulletin on Prigozhin's grappling with the time paradox, as it's called.
What date is that?
The date is, if it's a special issue, May 1994. So this is a month old. And the conclusion that's coming out of his work is that nature is not governed by eternal laws, which is a very big piece of news in science, because it has been the assumption really since the Greeks that there is a higher world of mathematical perfection, and that somehow the world of physical appearance and substance is a shadow in Plato's formulation, or a reflection of this higher, perfect, eternal world, which is mathematical in its foundation and best conceived somewhat like the mind of God. And so then the task of science has been to elucidate these eternal, unchanging rules, and to place nature in the context of this system of rules for purposes originally of philosophical contemplation, and for the last 1,000 years or so for purposes of technological manipulation. Well, a number of us over the past 15 years have been very restless with this idea. It seems to be naive philosophically, and it seems also not in congruence with the observable facts of nature. Prigozhin made his reputation by attacking the second law of thermodynamics, which was thought to be the most inviolate law in nature, the law that systems run down and that order and energy is dissipated ultimately as heat, and that disorder is the destiny of all organized systems. Prigozhin showed that this is not true. In classical chemical systems, he established what is called the principle of order through fluctuation, which is a situation where, for reasons not immediately apprehendable in classical chemical dynamics, a system will spontaneously mutate to a higher state of order. And we're not talking biological or social systems. We're talking just simple organic systems, chemical systems, I mean. Life is a very, very dramatic example of what Prigozhin was talking about. We have genes in us that occur in flatworms, absolutely undifferentiated from their expression in the human body. Well, those genes are arguably 3.5 billion years old. Since the life of an ordinary star, not our star, which is a slow-burning and special kind of star, but ordinary stars have an order of existence of 600 million years. 1/6 the known rate of the persistence of life on this one piece of real estate. So life is a phenomenon that violates the second law of thermodynamics on a planet-wide scale with ease for 3.6 billion years. Fascinating. And social systems similarly perturb themselves into higher states of order. A gene, the ordinary mechanisms of Darwinian evolution have to do with taking chaotic events, such as mutation, in other words, events which represent a degradation from an ideal state of order, and somehow using these stumbles, we could say, to become great leaps forward. A curious ability to, take lemons and make lemonade. That seems to be what biology is doing there. Well, I know Prigozhin only slightly and formally. My great intellectual comrade in arms is Rupert Sheldrake. And Rupert, this is his bailiwick as well. Because what he is saying, in a slightly different voice, is that nature is a process which, in a sense, predicts itself. In other words, he's saying that the way things have happened in the past is the way that they most tend to happen in the present and the future. This is not a scientific idea at all. It's a very unscientific idea. In its most extreme examples, it appears absurd. And he, being a clear thinker, is willing to push the theory into the domain of the absurd examples. What do I mean by absurd examples? I mean that if you believe this concept, then teaching rats in Australia to run a certain kind of maze should make it easier for rats in England to run that same maze. Rats in England should run it faster once it's run by rats in Australia. In other words, what he's saying is the mere act of something happening. It sort of digs a ditch through the epistemic murk of causality. This is what the biologist C.H. Waddington called a creode. A creode is a developmental pathway. And once you have one, a process will tend to run in that pathway rather than on one side of it or on the other. And so what Rupert's theory carries as an implication is what Prigozhin now proclaims, which is that what we thought were eternal natural laws are simply something more like habits of nature. And that nature begins in a highly undetermined state, where the set of possible creodes, that word which means developmental pathway, the set of possible creodes radiating out from the origin point approaches some enormous high number. But